The hearing is called to order. Um, Good afternoon. We now resume the budget briefing hearings on the proposed budgets of the departments, agencies, and corporations of the national government for fiscal year 2022. We will now consider the proposed budget of the Department of Science and Technology. May the committee secretary please acknowledge the resource persons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. May we acknowledge the resource persons physically present at the Nograles Hall, as well as the other resource persons attending virtually via Zoom. At first, at the Nograles Hall, Secretary Fortunato de la Peña. Undersecretary Rowena Cristina Guevara.
Apat lang. Nandyan.
Assistant Secretary Maridon Sahagon.
Ang nakalista, apat.
Executive Director Jaime Montoya, Deputy Director Albert G. Marino. At the holding area, we have also Executive Director Reynaldo Iborra, Executive Director Enrico Paringet, Director Imelda Angeles Agdepa, Director Annabel Briones, Director Carlo Arcilia, Administrator Vicente B. Malano of DOST Pagasa, Executive Director Lilia Habacon, Regional Director Jose Patalinhog, Director Lita Suerte Felipe, Ms. Elisa Corpus, Ms. Amelia Raso, Janet Puerto, Earl Brian Balucan, and Ira Mendoza. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Comsec. We shall now proceed with the budget presentation of the Department of Science and Technology. Secretary de la Peña.
Thank you, Your Honor. Congressman Peter John Calderon, Congressman Manny Dalipe, and all those who will be witnessing virtually. I am pleased to present the proposed budget for 2022 of the Department of Science and Technology. In some of these slides, I will be quick in presentation, just to give you an idea of the project. So next slide, please. Well, the outline of this presentation includes a brief background, our budget trust for 2022, and some budget details for 2022. At the end, we will have our significant accomplishments. Some of them are actually for the previous year, 2020, and partly for 2021. In some cases, we are presenting those which have been gained since I started, or since this administration started. Next slide, please. Our mandate is, of course, providing central direction, leadership, and coordination of scientific and technological efforts. And this is for the economic and social benefits of our people. Next slide, please. In the 2017 to 2022 medium-term plan, the identified target or in the vision for this particular period, the outcomes that we intend to have will be innovation stimulated, technology adoption promoted and accelerated, critical mass of globally competitive human resources developed for science, technology, and innovation, productivity and efficiency of communities and the production sectors, particularly our micro, small, and medium enterprises, improved, and also the outcome of resiliency to disaster, risk, and climate change ensured. We have added outcomes that are really in terms of governance. So we would like to reduce the inequality in science, technology, innovation capacities and opportunities. And we also are aiming at an outcome of effective science technology governance. Now, there are specific measures for this, and in the report of our achievements, we will mention them. Next slide, please. When the president announced his 10-point economic agenda, there were actually 4 items in his 10-point agenda where we think the science and technology sector can actively be involved and be supportive. And I'm referring to the agenda on competitiveness, whether we are talking of economic, industrial, or other forms of competitiveness. Then there is a reference to the production of world-class human resources, and that is very relevant in science and technology. There was also an agenda which seeks to make sure that the value adding aspect, particularly from this is about the value chain, particularly coming from rural enterprises, would be improved. And of course, science and technology can help a lot there. And then the last one is a very unique item, which is the promotion of science and technology and the creative arts, okay, for inclusive innovation. And to us, that was unique in a sense, because we have never put science and technology and the arts before. Okay, so we had to include that. Now, we came up with our 11-point agenda at DOST. Most of them are in research and development. As you can see, in the first 5 items of our agenda, R&D to address pressing national problems, R&D to enhance productivity, R&D to generate and apply new knowledge and technologies across sectors, R&D, okay, in the regions, because that has been shall we say, a major strategy in our administration. And then, of course, maximize the utilization of R&D results through technology transfer. Then the others are addressing the human resource build-up, also the build-up of facilities, because to be able to catch up, to lead, okay, in certain areas, we should have up-to-date and state-of-the-art facilities, and also expanding our assistance to communities. We have to be inclusive, okay? I think that is the other thing that I want to stress here. In terms of inclusive development, we really have to address the needs of our communities and different sectors. Now, we also have to address disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. The DOST is actually a vice chair for one of the pillars at the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. We are handling that pillar on disaster prevention. And the most active agencies involved are PAG-ASA and PBOX. Then we also want to strengthen industry, academic, government, and international collaboration. And I must say that in no other time in the past has international collaboration in science and technology been as strong as where we are now. We have developed, although that is actually a premeditated target, to limit our bilateral agreements to 20, but we have to select the best partners. And then we have an agenda on enhancing the effectiveness of governance. Next slide, please. Now, we have 18 agencies within the Department of Science Technology system. We have 3 councils in charge of 3 major sectors, and they are taking care of prioritizing the agenda for R&D. These are the ones for agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources R&D, that's PICARD, for health, PCHRD, and for industry, energy, and emerging technologies, PSHERD. Now, for the research and development institutes directly under us, we have 7 that are devoted to 7 major sectors. The Advanced Science and Technology Institute, as the word suggests, Advanced Science Technology Institute is actually focusing on information communications technology, electronics, and they have been very active in initiating activities and implementing activities in space technology. Of course, now we have a new agency, the Philippine Space Agency, that still cooperates with us. Now, we have the Food and Nutrition Research Institute. Nowadays, this institute has been very, very busy because of the fact that surveys have shown that more people have experienced hunger during the pandemic. But more than that, I think we really had a high percentage of malnutrition. Then we have the Forest Products Research and Development Institute. They are now looking into sustainable uses of our forest products, and they have been going into innovative products. For example, they have launched their program on musical bamboo instruments. They have launched a product on fragrance and essences, in addition to the traditional, which are really using the forest products like wood. ITDI, our oldest R&D institute, which actually started as the Bureau of Science in the year 1901, is actually still one of our biggest R&D institutes. They cover a wide range of areas addressing the needs of industry. So they have a material science division, they have a packaging division, they have an energy and environment division. Now they are they have a food processing division, and now they are very busy preparing for the establishment of the Virology Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines, because at the moment they are our agency that is most prepared to handle the initial projects of this institute, although later on this will transition from them to the Virology Science and Technology Institute. This is because they have a pharmaceutical unit. Then we have the Metals Industry Research and Development Center, which is at the forefront of introducing technologies towards the fourth industrial revolution technologies. And later on, we will show the new facilities that we have built. The Philippine Nuclear Research Institute has, of course, been actively involved in our program for the peaceful uses of nuclear technology. So the committee that is tasked to look into alternative sources of energy, particularly the possibility of using nuclear energy, we are very much part of that, particularly in ensuring safety. But more than that, our Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, other than the agricultural applications and energy applications, is now embarking on a big program, and this is regarding the nuclear applications in medicine, particularly in addressing the rising cases or statistics among Filipinos who die of cancer even without knowing that they had cancer. And textile, of course, has embarked on very innovative technologies and sources of material, and they have been filling in the gap that is seen between the agricultural production side and the actual processing side. Because, for example, in the case of the first Regional Innovation and Production Center that we have put up in Miagao, Iloilo, this is the first facility, very modern facility that we have put up and operated by the Iloilo State Science and Technology University, ISATU. And this is serving actually very well the agricultural and the industrial groups, from the cotton farmers to the producers of abaca and other sources of fabrics, of fiber. We have the facility now to produce the yarns, and then these are picked up by our weavers in that area, which has been traditionally a, shall we say, a place where indigenous woven fabrics are produced. Now, we also have our services institutes. We have Pag-asa, Weather Bureau, the PBOX in charge of volcanology and seismology, We have the Philippine Science High School system that operates 16 science high school campuses all over the country. Every region has one campus, and they operate up to senior high school. Then we have the Science Education Institute, which is the one in charge of administering the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics scholarships, starting from the baccalaureate level up to master's and PhD. And later on, we will show the increase, okay, in terms of the scholarships that we are administering. The Science Technology Information Institute takes care of information dissemination. The Technology Application and Promotion Institute takes care of commercialization and application of technologies, particularly the output of research and the innovations by our inventors. And we have two collegial bodies attached to us, the National Research Council of the Philippines and the National Academy of Science and Technology. There are 16 regional offices and 80 provincial science and technology centers. Next slide, please. We are very proud to say that even if I would admit that we are not the only one, shall we say, to be credited for this, but the Global Innovation Index ranking of the Philippines has consistently moved up from rank 100 out of 125 countries or economies in 2014 to the rank of 50 in 2020. And you can see the yearly improvement in terms of our ranking. I think by September 21, they will release the ranking for 2021. We are praying that the 50 will still go up because, well, on a personal, shall we say, target, I would like the Philippines to be on top 1/3 of all the countries in terms of the Global Innovation Index. That would mean around a rank of around 43 by the end of 2022. Now, these are actually very good indicators of input and output innovation. I just would like to mention that the Philippines has been performing very well in terms of output innovation, but admittedly relatively low on input innovation because this is where we have to invest. Okay, next slide, please. These are the budget trusts for 2022, okay, meaning to say the resources that we are asking will give priority to this. The first one is to accelerate the generation of knowledge, technologies, and innovations to improve the health systems to strengthen the country's capacity to address COVID-19. We believe, well, we have to be prepared with the fact that this pandemic, okay, I mean the disease caused by this virus may be there for quite some time, and we have to really be prepared for that. And of course, we cannot discount the possibility of new pandemics that may come in the future. Okay, so we have to be prepared, and that's the reason why in choosing the people who will be here in the room face to face, I invited Dr. Montoya, who heads our Health Research Council. Okay. Nawala. Naputol. Ayan po. Okay. So here, thank you, Your Honor. Our proposed budget for 2022 is, as per the National Expenditure Program, is 24,338,865,000. And the next slide will show comparisons. Well, This is broken down into personnel services, which comprise 19%. Okay, and then we have the maintenance and operating expenses at 77%, and the capital outlay, which is 4%. The capital outlay is relatively small, and this is actually accounted for by the construction of a new building for the Food and Nutrition Research Institute, which unfortunately sits on top of a fault. Okay, so we have already seen the cracks in the building, and we want to avoid untoward incidents or any accident. So the rest are actually in terms of the equipment under heat. Next slide, please. So this shows the trend. Okay, actually in 2020 we had a budget higher than 18.928 billion. If I recall, it was something like 21 billion. But the actual obligation was only 18.928. Most of these were because of construction activities that were delayed since pandemic started already in the early part of 2020. Now, our GAA for 2021, the present budget that we have, is 25.187 billion. The national expenditures budget, which we are proposing now, is 24.338 billion, which is lower than 3% from 2021. The reduction is mostly in capital outlay. Next slide, please. This is just to show you some of our major activities and accomplishments on health. Our drug discovery is called Tuklas Nunas, and we have now several active, shall we say, ingredients or components that we will soon commercialize. And then we have those that are devoted to biomedical devices. You know, we had to do our own development of biomedical devices. So the Agapay and the Tayo project are examples of this for the rehabilitation of stroke patients and others who are disabled because of certain illness. Next slide. Still on health, okay? One is on the reduction of nutrition, and more recently, maybe you have heard of the enhanced Nutriban, which is being consumed mostly by our DepEd and DSWD. In the case of DepEd, since there is no face-to-face class where they used to give meals to our students, these are now done by way of distributing the enhanced Nutriban, which contains all the necessary nutrients for a meal. Okay, so we have been licensing producers of Nutriban. We do not get any fee from the licensing, but we just want to make sure that they will pass FDA requirements. Next slide, please. We also had research, okay, on forest products, and they are very innovative types of research. So, for example, we have the bullet-resistant vest, okay, from engineered bamboo. This is going to be useful by people in our defense establishment. And then we have the bamboo musical instruments program, where we are trying to have a good business sector devoted to bamboo musical instruments, and at the same time preserve the culture that we have. Next slide, please. This is another area of research, and this is what I mentioned earlier, the establishment of Natural Dye Center for our textile industry, and the Regional Yarn Production Center, which I was mentioning, processing raw materials like cotton, abaca, and other fibers. Next slide, please. Pineapple included. These are the photographs of our satellites. Diwata 1 and Diwata 2 are the larger satellites, and Maya 1 and Maya 2 are the smaller ones. All four of these were produced, okay, in Japan, okay, with the involvement of Filipino scholars, okay. Now, today and last weekend, we launched the Maya 3 and Maya 4, which are slightly, I think, bigger than Maya 1 and Maya 2, but with enhancements like carrying better cameras, okay, and they can also serve as some kind of radio, okay, communication in cases when there is failure in mobile communication. So for the first time, the Maya 3 and Maya 4 were developed here in the Philippines in the UP Diliman, Quezon City, and they were developed by our own first batch of scholars in the master's program in space engineering. So they are now preparing for Maya 3, Maya 5, and Maya 6. All of this to really, shall we say, enhance our capability so that in the future we will be more or less not very dependent on the technologies from other countries in space technology. Next slide, please. We have, as I said, the one main, shall we say, feature of this administration as far as science and technology is concerned is our goal of being more inclusive. And one of the areas where we thought we can be more introduce inclusive development is in the setting up of research and development centers in different regions of the country. When we came in at the start of this administration, the percentage of the research and development grants that we have been giving out mostly went to the National Capital Region, to Region 3, and to Region 4A. I think more than 80% of our grants were going into these three regions. And we thought that it is high time that we strengthen the capabilities in the regions because there are very unique needs in different regions and also very distinct, unique opportunities, particularly in terms of resources. So we started supporting what we call the Science for Change program that has 4 components. One of them is the establishment of the NITS research centers in the regions. Today, we have a total of 38 total approved NITS research centers in the regions. 20 of them are in the agriculture, aquatic, and natural resources sector. 12 of them are in the industry, energy, and emerging technology sector, and 6 are in the health sector. So we have devoted something like 1.9 billion for this, and we are very proud about the improvement that we have seen in research capability. Most of the institutions hosting are universities, but there are also some which are government agencies. So, NICER, the NITS Research Center in the regions. Meron na tayo ngayon yung NITS Research Center for citrus, meron na tayo for crustaceans, meron na tayo for sea cucumber, meron na tayo for seaweed, spread all over the country. Next slide, please. Another component of the Science for Change program, which we have been implementing since, I think, about 2016, is the collaborative R&D to leverage the Philippine economy. One of the observations we had was that there are needs for R&D from our industries and enterprises, particularly the small and medium enterprises. The big ones can take care of their own. On the other hand, we have the people in the universities and in the government R&D institutions doing a lot of research, but mainly to have publications and intellectual property registered. Okay, so for example, if you teach in the university, you are evaluated in not only in terms of your effectiveness in teaching, but in terms of the number of international publications that you have had, in terms of the number of patents that you have filed, okay? And unfortunately, sometimes it does not jibe with the needs of the industry or economic sector. And this is the reason why we thought of having some kind of incentive for the two groups to cooperate, the industries or the enterprises, as well as the researchers from the universities and research institutions. So we introduced Cradle. So a company who has a research problem or who wants a new product, for example, developed, can choose their own partner universities to do the research for them if they do not have yet the people or the facilities. And the incentive we give is hindi naman malaki, up to 5 million pesos. If they will contribute their own, dadagdagan namin so that it can be met. But the returns are really, shall we say, very impressive, you know. Maybe I can just cite the example of a banana producing company in Davao. Malaki nagagasta nila sa pag-spread ng insecticide, okay? Kasi ilang daang hektarya ang taniman ng banana. Pagkatapos, yan ay ini-spray na using mga, ano ba gamit doon? Aeroplano. So, lahat na yan, i-sprayan mo. Dalawang bagay, ang laki ng gastos kung i-sprayan mo lahat. Pangalawa, yung environmental risk, you know. So, if Your Honor, can I pause just to if you want to recognize our Congressman Juni is coming in, and Congresswoman Julian? Okay. So as I was saying, this company was helped by the University of Southeastern Philippines in Davao. Alam nyo, ginamitan ng artificial intelligence, no? Pwede mong ma-detect kung inaatake na ng peste or malapit na atake ng peste yung mga banana just by the color of the leaves, etc. And because of that, they predicted which areas need to be sprayed insecticide. So, not 100% of the area needs the insecticide, okay? So, ang laki ng na-save nila in terms of the insecticide, ang laki pa ng reduction sa environmental risk. Just to give you an example. Another example is the Batangas Egg Cooperative, no? Siguro, not everybody knows that there is a place in San Jose, Batangas, where we have a big concentration of egg production. Napakarami, okay? And may problema sila diyan sa mga pangit na itlog. May mga itlog na maliliit, yung hindi mahirap ibenta. Yun ang tinulungan sila ng ating researchers sa UP Diliman Home Economics Group. Ang dami nilang bagong produkto na develop out of these eggs, no? Okay, anyway, next slide please, just to make it short. We have also a component which we call RD Lead. Ito na yung mga eksperto natin sa iba't ibang field of science na pwede naman silang gamitin ng ibang institution, ano? So we are encouraging that. So halimbawa, yung expert natin sa sea cucumber, galing sa kung saan university yon, ay from the Marine Science Institute, ay dinistino muna sa MSU na Awan sa Misamis and help the group there in their sea cucumber program. O kaya naman yung isa na magaling sa ano pa ba isa natin magandang example diyan si Coke, ano? Sa UP Marine Science Institute din, dinala namin sa Cebu. Sa UP Visayas naman. So hindi ngayon concentrate lang doon sa kanyang original institution. Lalo na po yung mga nagre-retire na pwede na i-assign sa ibang lugar at willing naman. Thank you. Next slide, please. Ito'y bago lang pong component na ito. Ito naman yung aming programa to enable our small and medium enterprises to put up their own research facilities. pwede namin i-advance yung kailangang resource to procure the equipment so that they can do their own R&D. Babayaran nila yan ng walang interest. So we have already 3 projects approved, Herbanex in Bacolod, and then 2 others which are located in different places. Next slide, please. I think I'm nearing the end of my presentation. Ito yung matagal na naming running program, yung Small Enterprise Technology Upgrading Program, which for the period from 2016 up to today has served 4,199 small and medium enterprises. No? Ito po yung inaaral namin kung anong technology improvement ang kailangan nila to expand capabilities in terms of capacity, in terms of new product lines, okay, in terms of productivity, and then we approve, okay, request for resources to buy whatever hardware or software is needed, but of course with the provision that they will pay that after a 1-year grace period and then 36 months to pay. We had a very high repayment rate, more than 85%, but we had to give a moratorium for this period because of the pandemic. Okay. Next slide, please. Yung pala, community empowerment. Ito naman yung pagtulong namin sa mga marginalized communities. We have a standard definition of marginalized. Okay? Maka-enumerate dyan kung ano yung pwedeng mag-fall under marginalized. Nandyan yung mga indigenous people, nandyan yung mga geographically isolated areas, nandyan din yung mga halimbawa, yung mga housewives na kailangan silang maging breadwinner, okay? Iba't ibang category. Meron kaming grupo na tinulungan sa Cebu, ito yung mga retiradong teacher na sabi nila productive pa naman kami, so tinulungan namin. Ang kanilang ginawang project ay pagpo-produce ng mga planting materials for trees na namumunga, no? And that was making a good business, ano? Tuwan-tuwa ako doon kasi yung matagal ko nang hinahanap na bunga, yung breadfruit, doon ko nakita. Nagpo-produce sila ng mga planting materials for breadfruit. Yung rimas sa amin, ewan ko sa Bisaya kung ano tawag doon. So, breadfruit, masarap merienda yun eh. Nung maliliit kami, nilalaga lang yun. Sinasahok-sahok lang sa asukal. And, but bihira na ngayon yun. But they are a very resilient kind of tree. Hindi mo siya matutumba ng bagyo. Okay, now let me just move over to the next slide. Ito na yata yung, ito naman yung sa business incubation. We have set up 47 business incubators and 16 innovation hubs, again, distributed all over the country to support these startups. We have been included under the Innovative Startup Act as one of 3 departments that are mandated to support startup companies. Yung sa amin, we are helping technology-based startups. DTI is the other department with the mandate, and the other one is the Department of ICT, because there are many startups that deal with the use of ICT. Next slide, please. So kasama yan sa Startup Grant Program. This is what I was mentioning. Kasama po yan sa Trust for 2022. Okay. Next slide, please. Ito naman yung aming Human Resource Development Program, the scholarships. Hindi na yata, ayun, meron pa rin kasama. Philippine Science High School is the first one, where we keep something like 9,600 something scholars a year. Okay? Medyo tumataas pa din kasi there are regions who are requesting for bigger quota. For example, Region 4 requested for an increase in quota from 90 to 120. Clark, the Central Luzon campus, the Ilocos Region campus, they requested for an increase of quota from 90 to 120. Now, gusto ko lang pong i-report na siyempre marami tayong challenge because of the remote learning system. But the the number of honor graduates even increased, even with the remote system. No? Medyo tumaas lang ng konti, siguro by magkano by almost 1% yung mga ano tawag doon, na discontinue ang scholarships. Kasi pagka sila ay nakakuha ng failing grade ay tumitigil ang scholarship. Anyway, the undergraduate scholars are now actually yung nakalagay pong figures for 2021 ay kulang kasi hindi reflected yung bagong scholars for 2021. We have to report that it took us some time to announce the qualifiers. In fact, we announced the qualifiers for this school year only last weekend because there was no face-to-face exam. We have to rely on an artificial intelligence model to come up with the list of qualifiers. And then, mabuti naman po dito sa mga nagma-masters at PhD, hindi naman nababawasan masyado. In fact, nag-i-increase pa doon sa mga PhD scholars. Sa masters, some of them are yung pong nangangailangan ng maraming laboratory experiments na nahihirapan sila, yung iba nagpapa-defer muna ng implementation ng kanilang research. Next slide, please. Then the Balik Scientist Program, we thank our legislature and the President for approving the Balik Scientist Act in 2018. Ang ganda na sana ng trend from 2018 to 2019. Okay, so we had a target figure na kung paano tataas siya unti-unti from 2018 onwards. And yun nga, nagkaroon tayo ng pandemic. So yung pagpunta rito, pagbalik, coming from other countries was affected until we had to resort to changes in our guidelines. Kung short term, ay pwede kang maging balik scientist kahit na virtual lang. Okay. Ang gaganda po ng epekto ng ating balik scientist. The most recent that I welcome is a group of 7 who come from the United States, 4 sila, from UK, 2, and from Australia, 1, all volunteering to help in setting up the Virology Science and Technology Institute. So I met them. They arrived physically last August 13. Okay. Next slide, please. Now, these are the new facilities that we have built in the DOST system. The Additive Manufacturing Research Laboratory, the Additive Manufacturing Center, the Materials Development Laboratory. These are to promote the additive manufacturing technology. Sa pagpuproduce po ng mga produkto, for example, yung mga metal na produkto, ang conventional way is to subtractive. Meron kang material, unti-unti mong tinotorno, unti-unti mong binubutas, unti-unti mong hanggang sa makuha mo yung talagang produkto. Dito po additive. Meron kang software, okay, na nandoon yung design ng produkto, 3-dimensional, at aandar yung additive manufacturing machine, okay, na unti-unting habang umiikot nagdadagdag ng material hanggang sa mabuo yung tunay na produkto. At yan po ay ang daming naging interesado. In fact, immediately, there are so many agreements that we have entered into. Siguro worthwhile mentioning would be in the area of medical products. Yung halimbawa, yung mga prosthetics na dati ang hirap-hirap gawin, pwede na ngayon through additive manufacturing. Ultimo yung mga pustiso, iba pa na madali na ngayong magawa through additive manufacturing, and kahit na malaki na produkto pwede. So we have different sizes of 3D printers located in AMSEN. Next slide, please. Dito naman po ang gusto lang namin banggitin dito ay yung mga nadagdag na mga mahuhusay na equipment para sa ating weather forecasting. Ito po ay nagsimula rin sa legislation, yung Pag-asa Modernization Act. Okay? At mula noon ay nadagdag na itong 17 Doppler radars, yung 29 high-frequency Doppler radars, ito yung ginagamit sa mga malapit sa dagat, yung 15 flood forecasting and warning systems. At for this year, we expect that before the end of 2021, we will have 3 Doppler radars operational, one in the Agno, Pangasinan, one in Lawang, Samar, and one in Kapaingan in Masbate. And there will be 4 additional forecasting and warning centers that will be added to the 15. Next slide, please. In terms of, still this is in the area of building resilience. Ito naman po yung mga ginawa ng ating PBOLCs, okay? So they developed several apps, The GeoRisk PH integrated database system that stores cleansed and standardized information on hazards, exposure, and vulnerability. They also launched the Hazard Hunter PH and the Geoanalytics PH. Diyan yung malalaman kung yung inyong address, anong klaseng mga hazards ang malapit. Okay? Nilaunch din yung Geo Mapper PH at saka yung spectral acceleration maps of the Philippines. Ito po ay itong last two na to ay gamit na gamit ng ating mga structural engineers dahil kailangan nila yan for building ito yung mga structures na prepared for seismic movements. Next slide, please. This is in the area of our international and bilateral linkages. Ang ginawa po namin ay imbes na kamukha nung araw, lahat ng lumapit ay pipirma tayo ng agreement. Ngayon pinili lang namin ang mga bansa na gusto nating magkaroon ng bilateral and multilateral engagements at naka-specify na kung ano yung mga areas na gusto nating mag-cooperate sa kanila. Halimbawa po, in the area of health, napakalakas ng collaboration na natin ngayon sa Japan, sa US, sa UK, at even with Singapore. Okay? Lalo ngayong dumating itong COVID-19, meron tayong mga joint projects with Singapore. Next slide, please. Ito lang isang example na finally napirmahan na rin yung mga agreements with Russia, Israel, Iran, China. Yung sa Italy, actually, ano pa lang yan, agreement on one project, pero wala pang bilateral agreement sa Italy. Next slide, please. And ito po ay isang mahalagang papel na ginagampanan ngayon. Ang nagli-lead ay ang Department of Science and Technology, yung Task Group on Vaccine Evaluation and Selection. Kasama ko po si Yusek Rowena Guevara, siya ang chair ng Task Group on Vaccine Evaluation and Selection. And if you have questions, she will be the one to answer. And next slide, please. I think we are moving towards the end. Ito naman yung mga iba pang dinevelop to address COVID-19, yung RT-PCR diagnostic kit. Dahil tayo ay meron ng programa sa diagnostic kit na nakaproduce na ng kit for dengue and leptospirosis, ay madali na tayo naka-adjust nung dumating ang COVID noong early part of 2020. So by April 5, 2020, meron na tayong RT-PCR detection kit produced by a local company, actually set up by our researchers and approved by FDA. So mabilis tayo naka-react. And then itong faster, ito yung modeler na ginagamit. Ito na ngayon ay inadapt na ng IATF at ito yung ginagamit sa pag-forecast ng magiging direksyon ng COVID-19 given certain assumed policy directions. Okay, so iba-ibang policy ay iba-iba ang magiging pattern kung ano ang mangyayari. Next slide please. Andyan din yung mga paggawa ng mga biomedical devices, relief vent, ventilators, at saka itong ventilator using the vent technology. Actually, nagsimula yan sa ventilator para sa mga bata. Ngayon ay nag-develop ng version para sa matanda. Next slide, please. Marami tayong iba pa na ginawa sa DOST, itong REWARE, sa Philippine Textile Research Institute, and then isang naging blessing sa amin ay binigyan kami ng budget ng DBM para i-set up na yung Medical Textile Testing Center. So dati wala kami yan. Because of the need to test medical textile, ay meron na tayong sineset up na testing center with a budget coming from DBM. Next slide, please. Yun, yung RX box naman, ito yung aming dinevelop na device para sa mga rural areas na walang mga espesyalistang doktor. Meron ka lang isang rural health doctor na usually general practitioner. Pag tinuro sa kanila kung paano gamitin ito, ay marami siyang pwedeng makita sa isang pasyente. Iba't ibang mga vital signs, hindi lamang yung blood pressure, okay, pulse rate, pero makukuha na rin yung oxygen saturation, makukuha na rin yung pati yung ano tawag dito, uterine movements na didetect. Nadidetect kung buntis yung nagpapatingin at pati yung ECG pwede dyan. Ngayon, yung iba ginagamit namin pansamantala para sa mga ospital na maraming cases na severe kasi pwede siyang telemetry device na kung saan hindi na kailangan lapit-lapitan siya ng health worker parate ay mamamonitor ang kanyang vital signs. Okay. Next slide please. Ito naman yung aming mga research sa herbal medicines. Maganda po ang initial findings sa virgin coconut oil for the mild and suspect cases at ngayon ay hinihintay na lang namin ang resulta ng trial sa UPPGH on the severe and moderate cases. Tapos na rin ang trial sa Lagundi. Yun ay gamot sa ubo at nakita na nakakatulong siya sa pagre-relieve ng symptoms ng mga COVID patients. Pero hindi pa namin alam kung ano tawag doon? Kung may diferensya ba yung naglagundi at hindi in terms of the time na mag-negative siya from positive PCR. So yung ngayon na inaaral at kung kailan siya nag-negative. Hindi pa natin ma-prove na mas maagang nag-negative yung naglalagundi. At saka okay. So yan ang may iba pang inaaral at siguro by end of September siguro tapos na yun Okay. Tawa-tawa din ay inaral natin kasi nga naobserbahan nila na nakakataas siya ng platelet count, pero hindi siya gamot, siya ay health supplement. Next slide please. Hindi ko na iisa-isahin ito pero ito naman yung mga may kaalaman sa transport applications. Ang pinaka kilala ngayon ay yung SPAS. Ayan ay dinevelop ng aming regional office sa Region 6 na nung kanila nang ginagamit ay nabalitaan ng IATF na okay. So ipina-adapt nationwide. SPAS. Next slide please. And so ito pa yung iba nating ginagawa ngayon. Hopefully ay ma-approve na sa Senate yung Virology Institute. Tapos na po dito sa House of Representatives. And then next slide. Tapos na po. So yan po ang aming mga ginagawa at balak pang gawin supported by the 2022 budget. Marami po salamat sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Secretary De La Peña. I suppose the good secretary will answer some questions from the members of the House. So for the first interpellator from the minority representative, Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa ating mga colleagues na naririto ngayon sa Committee on Appropriation at syempre sa atin pong resource person led by the Secretary. Mr. Chair, looking at the budget of the DOST, parang nag-increase lang po ito ng 1.8% o 116 million mula dun sa budget nila ng 2021. So, Mr. Chair, advocacy ko na talaga tong science and technology, no? Kasi dito natin nakikita yung pag-i-improve nung mga kailangan natin. Nakita naman natin yung presentation nila, mukhang ang daming mga accomplishment. Congratulations po sa DOST, pero pag tinignan ang budget, mukhang maliit lang yung in-increase. So umpisa pa lang, Mr. Chair, ako ay nag-aano na sana madagdagan natin later on itong budget. Pero, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chair, magkano po yung proposed budget ninyo? Yung pinropose po ninyo sa DBM, Mr. Chair?
Alam ko 42. 41.227 billion po.
And then, ang in-approve ay
24.
24. So,
338.
napakalaki ng binaba mula dun sa kanilang proposal. So, ako, Mr. Chair, ay later on in a proper time, madagdagan natin yung kanilang budget. Noted na mga budget cuts, Mr. Chair, yung sa General Management and Supervision, na-slash siya ng 29%. Science and Technology Program, ng mga regional and countryside development. Konti lang po, kaya lang bakit may slash pa rin doon. So walang mga significant increase, Mr. Chair, sa enhancement of science and technology projects, support to operations strategy. So wala rin siyang increase doon sa diffusion and transfer of knowledge and technologies, conduct of scientific and technological conferences. So napansin natin, Mr. Chair, ang malaking slash, no, yung renovation, rehab, and expansion. So tama po ba, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary? Pero wala kayong proposal po nito. So ano po itong renovation, rehabilitation, and expansion of DOST main building, phase 2?
Okay. Asek Donet, can you elaborate on that? So, Mr. Chair, Assistant Secretary Hagon.
Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon po. Madam, yung pong proposal is part of the ongoing renovation of our DOST main building. So phase 3 po yon na pinropose namin na mga furnitures and fixtures and some enhancement of the building na hindi na binigay, but the main construction will be completed under phase 1 and phase 2 of the project.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, may I? Yung po kasing aming relatively old building ay dineclare ng hindi pasado sa building code. So we really have to do this improvement, ano? And sa totoo lang po, parang ang hirap palang mag-improve ng isang old building. Kung tutusin, parang mabuti pang giniba na lang. Nag-construct ng bago. Pero yun pong phase 1 ay patapos na. Okay? So, yung ang wala tayong pondo para sa phase 3 na. Phase 1 and phase 2 po patapos na. Yung phase 3 na lang. Kaya kung makikita naman natin ay maganda na ang itsura niya. At I think 3 out of 4 floors can be occupied already. Okay. So yun po, yun ang sitwasyon ngayon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pangalawang question po, dahil tayo po ay nasa panahon ng pandemya, So kailangan natin siguro mag-develop nung sa atin. Sabi niyo po meron kayong mga project sa Singapore, Japan related to COVID. So ano po ito? Bakuna po ba to? Ano po ba yung project na?
Nga po, tatawagin ko po, Mr. Chair, si Dr. Jaime Montoya kasi siya ang nagli-lead sa amin dyan. Dr.
Please.
Montoya.
Magandang hapon po. Yes, yung sa collaboration po with Singapore, meron po kasi tayong yung tinatawag na tayo po ang nag-establish yung ASEAN Network for Drugs, Diagnostics, Traditional Medicine Vaccines Innovation na tayo po ang nagsimula na nirecognize po ng ASEAN. At under this network po ay nagsagawa tayo ng mga collaboration at ito nga yung with Singapore. Una, para po makapag-develop ng mga diagnostic test na magiging available po sa lahat ng countries sa ASEAN. At ikalawa po, yung tinatawag nating zero surveillance project, titinan po yung mga pag-respond o yung mga antibodies na na-generate ng iba't ibang bakuna sa iba't ibang ASEAN member state, considering na sila po ay, we are all in different stages of vaccine implementation and immunization para malaman po natin kung ano bang mga antibodies ang na-generate ng iba't ibang vaccines po na available sa kasalukuyan sa region. So ito lang po yung ilan sa mga projects na ginagawa po natin. Salamat po.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wala po tayong project on developing yung bakuna po para sa COVID-19. As of now, wala tayong plano.
Po, tatawagin ko na si Yusek Guevara tungkol dito sa Virology Science and Technology Institute kasi ito po yung one of the main purposes of the Virology Science and Technology Institute.
Thank you very much po sa tanong. Sa kasalukuyan, wala po tayong ability na mag-develop ng bakuna. Ang ginagawa po namin together with the Department of Trade and Industry, naghahanap po kami ng vaccine originator, yung gumawa po ng bakuna, at pinapartner po namin sa isang local pharmaceutical industry na willing pong maggawa ng tinatawag nating fill and finish. Yun po yung dulo ng pagmamanufacture ng bakuna. Pero para po sa susunod or future na pandemic ay hindi na mangyari sa atin ito, kami po ay nag-propose po ng Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines o VIP at natutuwa po kami na nakapasa na po kami dito sa House of Representatives at sana po ay ma-approve po yung batas. Gayunpaman, binigyan naman po kami ng pondo ng DBM ng 284 million ngayong taon, nakapag-umpisa na po kami ng research tungkol sa mga viruses po. Lalo na po yung virus na tumatalon mula sa hayop papunta sa tao. Katulad po ng COVID. Thank you po.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, maganda na mas suportahan talaga ng pondo itong pag-develop nung yung at least may capacity tayo para magkaroon ng bakuna. How about yung ASF? Meron ba kayong pag-aaral, Mr. Chair? Kasi isa rin ito sa problema ng mga magsasaka natin. In fact, Mr. Chair, nagkaroon talaga ng malaking impact doon sa ating mga magsasaka, tama, yung ating mga magbababoy or ano. Meron ba tayong dine-develop na study on?
Meron na po tayong proyekto na patungo na doon at i-request ko po muli si Yusek Guevara na in charge ng R&D to share with us the activities in this area.
Yung pong Virology and Vaccine Institute of the Philippines, hindi lang po pang human, pati for animals at saka plants. Aralin po nila yung mga viruses. Para sa ASF po, may na-develop po yung ating researcher na pang-detect ng ASF sa baboy. Para po mapalitan na natin yung ating 1-7-10 na rule ng Department of Agriculture na within 1 kilometer, lahat pinapatay. Ngayon, pwede na po nating testingin kung meron siya talagang ASF. Sa kasalukuyan po, nag-field testing na po ang ating researcher with the help of the Department of Agriculture.
Yusek Geb, yung bang isa nating sinusuportahan through the BEAST program ay mag-aaral din ng bakuna?
Opo, may isa pa po kaming sinuportahan na bagong kumpanya po na gumagamit po ng molecular biology para po mag-develop ng mga detection kits ng iba't ibang klase ng mga sakit ng mga hayop. At eventually po magde-develop din sila ng bakuna para po dyan sa ASF.
Actually, Mr. Chair and Ma'am, yun pong binanggit niyang pangalawa na yun, ang nagtayo po ay balik scientist na. Oo.
Okay. May time pa ako, Mr. Chair, no? Good to know, no, na meron na tayong mga ganong studies kasi yun po yung kinakailangan natin sa panahon ngayon. Kay pangalawa, Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang magbigay ng syempre appreciation doon sa DOST study on teachers. Spend on money to buy gadgets, avail of internet services to facilitate teaching learning. Kasi alam niyo po, sa panahon ng pandemya, teachers ang taya. Teachers talaga, kung wala ang teachers, hindi na hindi na itawid itong blended learning dahil talaga. So ito yung study na magpapatunay talaga sa claim ng ating mga teachers na talagang hirap sila kasi mababa ng sweldo, hirap pa sila para dito sa mga gadgets. So tapasalamat ako dun sa study, sana magamit lang ito ngayon natin para sa budgetan yung mga gadgets, yung internet access, and for the DICT rin syempre na para mapalakas din natin yung ating signal o yung ating internet So, yun lang po, Mr. Chair. In due time po, mag-propose po ako ng increase of the budget of the DOST.
Thank you, Representative Castro. The next to interpellate from the majority, Deputy Speaker Bernadette Herrera D.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chair, I already asked this to Secretary the other day, but I'd just like to ask for an update dahil medyo naguguluhan ako doon sa sagot niya sa akin with regards to ano pong status ng clinical trial of ivermectin.
Okay. Bago ko po i-request si Dr. Montoya to reply to this, gusto ko lang banggitin na mula po nung dumating sa amin ang request ng DOH na magkaroon ng trial sa ivermectin, ay dinaan namin yan din doon sa proseso hanggang sa yan ay magkaroon ng approved budget at magkaroon ng pondo. So mula po noon na-approve at na-release ang pondo ay kumilos na yung project proponents o yung project leader, Dr. Eileen Wang, para maumpisahan na po yan. Kaya lang ang atin pong proseso kasi diyan ay papa-approvean mo pa yung methodology sa isang technical committee, pagkatapos ay papa-approvean mo din para sa ethics research board dahil that involves humans, and then bago lang makapagsimula ng trial. So nagkaroon na kami ng mga hakbang para diyan at nakahanda na tayo para sa trials. Pero i-request ko si Dr. Montoya to give more details for that.
Magandang hapon po at gusto ko lang pong ipaalam sa inyo po na katulad po na sinabi ni Secretary, yan po ay ginawa na natin ng paraan mula po ng request ng Department of Health na isagawa po yung trial para once and for all po ay matingnan natin kung ito ay magagamit ng mga Pilipino na may COVID-19. Bukod pa po dito, tayo po ay kasama sa tinatawag na International Clinical Trial Consortium for Ivermectin na pinangungunahan po ni Dr. Andrew Hill, isang kilalang researcher at expert po ng COVID tungkol sa ivermectin po from the University of Liverpool. At tayo po ay kasama dyan dahil tayo po ang isa sa ilang bansa na magsasagawa ng trial na naaayon po sa international methodology. Gusto ko po lang banggitin na bagamat marami pong mga pag-aaral na nagawa na sa ibang bansa, ay karamihan po dito ay tinatawag na low quality study po base po sa evaluasyon ng mga international peer reviewers At bukod pa po doon, yung recent development na yung isang publication at research po na isinagawa sa Egypt na nagpakita po ng some benefit po ang ivermectin for patients with COVID-19 ay pinull out po from publication dahil po because of ethical issues at issues on data manipulation and validity. So ito po ay nagdaan uli sa international peer review at ito po ang magandang balita ko lang po masasabi ay ito po ating isasagawa na trial sa ating bansa ay nagdaan po sa peer review at ito po ay siniguradong ang methodology, ang pagsasagawa po ng pag-aaral ay naaayon po sa scientific standards dahil ito po ay endorsed ng International Clinical Trial Consortium. At ayaw po naman natin na magkaroon ng issue ito dahil po ay baka masabi na hindi maganda ang methodology o ma-question. So ito po ay nasagot na po para po maganda po ang disenyo ng ating pag-aaral. Salamat po.
Deputy Speaker D.
Yes, thank you. Naka-mute po kasi, hindi po ako maka-unmute, Mr. Chair. Pakisabihan po yung admin na not to mute us or let us unmute so that we could speak. Anyway, Mr. Chair, parang hindi ko pa rin po nakuha yung kasagutan sa tanong ko. So ano na po bang status natin through you, Mr. Chair? Nagsimula na ba? Sisimulan pa lang? Or natapos lang yung methodology? Kasi medyo matagal na to. So, ibig sabihin, yung 6 months clinical trial, magsisimula pa lang?
Pwede ko pong sagutin. Yung pong trial po, ang target date po na magsisimula po siya ay September 15 dahil doon po lalabas yung approval. Dahil sabi ko po kanina, binago po yung methodology dahil nga upon the advice po ng International Clinical Trial Consortium, dahil nagkaroon po ng issue yung ibang mga pag-aaral na isinagawa po at na-publish na. At para hindi po mangyari yung mga ganong hindi natin gustong pangyayari ay sinigurado natin ang ating methodology ay tama. So ito po ay ang target pong simula ay September 15 dahil ito po ay nire-review pa po ng ethics at ng technical panel at ang projected date po ay middle of September po ang simula. Pero ito po ay ginawa na po ng yung mga trial sites po ay ayos na po. Yung pera po ay nasa sa UP na at ito pong yung mga investigators po ay handa na po at iniintay na lang po yung paglabas noong protocol approval ng ethics at technical panel po. Salamat po.
So, Mr. Chair, sino po yung composition ng ethics and technical panel? Who decides if it's the correct methodology or not?
Yung methodology po, dinevelop po yan together with the International Clinical Trials Consortium na binanggit ko po kanina. Kasama po tayo dyan na pinangungunahan ni Dr. Andrew Hill from the University of Liverpool. Yung ethics review po ay ginagawa po ng Single Joint Research Ethics Board po na kinabibilangan ng mga ospital na kasama po doon sa pag-aaral at yung ethics review board po ng UP Manila. Dahil ang magsasagawa, ang mangunguna po dito ay ang Philippine General Hospital na si Dr. Aileen Wang po ang principal investigator po.
Anyway, through you, Mr. Chair, can I ask na lang the DOST to submit to us yung magiging methodology nila para we have a copy of that?
Opo, papadala po namin po.
Yes. Mr. Chair, if I may proceed with my next question. Meron na po ba tayong nakaset aside na budget? Kasi I understand marami po ang mga Pilipino na may mga inventions sila na makakatulong sa COVID-19. Do we have enough budget to explore yung kanilang gusto nilang ipa-clinical trial?
Mr. Chair, yung po kasing pagsasagawa ng clinical trial, meron din tayong sinusunod na policy and guidelines. At halimbawa, kung ang clinical trials ay katuwang natin ng isang bilateral partner na bansa, ay pwede yung isagawa dito ng tayo ang gumagastos. Ano? Tama ba yun? WHO. So anyway, pakilinaw na lang kung ano yung meron ang binabanggit ni Congresswoman Bernadette Herrera ay yung mga imbensyon na gawa ng mga private citizens.
Yeah, how can, through you, Mr. Chair, how can we be of help to those na gustong magpa-test ng kanilang mga produkto in order to help us in this pandemic? Kasi marami rin silang mga na nagagawang mga gamot eh.
Salamat po sa tanong po. Of course, tayo po ay very open po sa mga teknolohiya at invention po, lalo-lalo na ating mga Pilipino scientists. Pero meron po tayong may proseso nga na sinabi po ni Secretary na unang-una po, siyempre ang tinitinan po natin, ang prioridad po natin ay yung mga technology invention na maganda po ang proof of concept. At meron na pong preliminary studies na isagawa bago po sila gawan ng clinical trial. Katulad po ng tinatawag na preclinical studies. Alam niyo po yung mga pag-aaral po, hindi po yan pwedeng isagawa sa mga tao na hindi po nagdaan yan sa tinatawag na preclinical phase. Katulad po yung mga in vitro sa laboratorio at mga animals as needed po. At ilan po sa mga imbensyon na to ay hindi po nagdadaan sa ganoong proseso. Tayo po sinisigurado natin na nagawa po yan dahil hindi po tayo pwede mag-shortcut na pumunta ka agad sa clinical trial. So, yun po ay kinakausap namin sila na kung pwede ay tulungan namin sila. Pero alam niyo po, yung iba pong issue ay ayaw din nila mag-disclose ng yung kumbaga parang intellectual property, yung what makes it work. Yung pong isa pang medyo hesitant po sila, although kami naman may non-disclosure. At pero kami po ay willing na tumulong at katunayan po nito, lalo na sa COVID-19, pag yan po ay sa amin din, yan po ay katuwang din natin ang Philippine Institute for Traditional and Alternative Healthcare po ng DOH. Kami po ay nag-uusap para kami po ay magkatuwang sa pagre-review at sa posibleng pagpupondo po ng mga technology na ito. Salamat po.
Yun lang naman ang gusto ko marinig, Mr. Chair, na bukas yung DOST. Mr. Chair, may last question na lang ako. With regards dun sa RT-PCR, I heard na merong invention yung DOST ng RT-PCR. That's really a welcome development. Ang question ko lang, di ba may issues on RT-PCR with regards to the number of revolutions? Parang sinasabi nila kasi yung revolutions na ginagamit natin is 30, tapos dapat daw 17 lang. So, kaya ang daming nagpa-positive. So ano ba tong invention natin ng RT-PCR? Ano ba yan? Ano bang masasabi niyo dun sa awayan na nababasa natin with regards to the revolutions of the RT-PCR? Kaya marami rin nagpa-false positive. And ano bang pwedeng alternative than RT-PCR to determine talaga kung may COVID positive ang isang patient?
Tutuloy na ni Dr. Montoya.
Yes, please respond, Dr. Montoya.
Po. Well, unang-una po, yung itong RT-PCR na ito na dinevelop po para sa COVID-19, ito po ay base sa pagkakaunawa natin sa genomic sequence ng circulating viruses po sa buong mundo ng COVID-19. So, naging issue po yung, tapos yung mga revolution po na tinatawag, ito po yung mga cycles. So, po ilang beses po i-magnify o i-multiply po yung DNA na nakikita doon sa sample. So ngayon po, naging issue yan dahil meron po yung sa paglabas ng ating mga variants ay meron pong mga ilan na hindi po nadedetect sa kasalukuyang forma at hindi lang po yan, ang sabi ng iba, baka pwedeng bawasan yung mga dinedetect na sequence kung importante lang. So yun po yung susunod na phase of development. May mga dinedevelop na po mga test ngayon na nagpo-focus o nagta-target po sa isang specific part lang po noong DNA para mas mabilis po ang detection at hindi ganong karaming revolution o cycles ang kailangan para ma-detect po yung virus. So ito po ay napakabilis po kasi ng developments, no? Talo na paglabas ng mga variants, ito po yung sinasabi nating possible fall through na hindi na-detect kaya patuloy po ini-improve ito para po hindi mangyari po iyon.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, through you, kaya po, I'm just putting it out there para pakitignan pong mabuti ito, Dr. Montoya, Secretary Boy, kasi napakahalaga dahil critical nga yata yung number of revolutions ng RT-PCR natin. Since you're already there inventing it, I hope we could come up with something that could really help us here in our country. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to have an update on that. Sana po masubmit sa amin yung status ng sa ivermectin, pati na rin yung RT-PCR. So we'd have more information on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, General Bernadette Herrera D. Now next for the minority, the chair would like to give the floor for her interpellation, Representative Sara Elago.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I'd like to say that we really have high hopes that as mentioned by Representative Franz Castro, students, youth, and all other education stakeholders are hopeful and very optimistic that the budget for the DOST will be increased for the year 2022. Now, let me move to our clarificatory questions, Mr. Chair. Despite the higher number of the PSHS scholars, as well as the new budgetary requirements for improving distance education and ensuring inclusive learning amid the pandemic, the PSHS system will still suffer a huge budget cut of negative 21%. May we know, Mr. Chair, what is the reason for the decrease in the PSHS budget?
Mr. Chair, karamihan po nung nakapropose ng mga infrastructure ay tapos na. So wala na silang infrastructure na ipinopropose masyado ngayon.
Mr. Chair, may we know the original PSHS proposed budget for the year 2022?
Tinitingnan lang po. Mr. Chair, yung Executive Director ng Philippine Science High School, nandun lang po siya sa holding room.
All right. Mr. Chair, may I proceed to our next matter of concern while we wait for the Executive Director of the PSHS system?
Please proceed.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the same question to Pag-asa. They will suffer a huge decrease as well in their budget for 2022. That's about negative 24%. May we know the reason for this decrease, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, our Pag-asa Administrator is also in the holding room. Can we also call him?
Yes, please. Can we ask
All right.
the representative?
Then, Mr. Chair, may I proceed to our next matter of concern? The DOST Secretary presented the niche centers in the regions for R&D, the NICER program. May we know the status of utilization of the 1.89 billion worth of grants approved for this program?
So I will ask Undersecretary Rowena Guevara to handle that question.
Nabigay na po yung mga funds dun sa mga universities. And most of them fully utilized naman po, except that some of them experienced 3 months to 6 months delay in the project completion due to COVID-19.
Mr. Chair, what are the steps
Release
taken
na
by
lahat.
the Mr. Chair, tama ba yung narinig ko? Release na po lahat sa SUKS, ang
Yes.
1.89 billion.
Yes.
Can we get po a report on the utilization of this? And also, we raised this question, Mr. Chair, because there are RAs, yung mga research assistants natin, and science workers na raising this issue on delays. Talagang marami po sa kanila, ito lang yung pinagkukunan talaga ng pondo, minsan pa nga nagkukulang dahil nga sa epekto ng pandemya. Kaya hindi talaga obra na may nararanasan ng mga delays dahil naapektuhan din yung kanilang mga proyekto. May we know, Mr. Chair, what are the steps being taken by the DOST to prevent any more of these delays in the distribution of the grants to our RAs and science workers?
Madam Chair, Madam Congresswoman, pag nag-release kami ng pera doon sa institution, ay sila na po ang responsible doon sa pagbabayad on time doon sa kanilang mga empleyado o personnel. Kami po ay hindi kami nagde-delay nung release ng pondo para dyan. So ano po talaga ang gusto nyong makuhang impormasyon?
Mr. Chair, DOST is also part of the Board of Regents and Board of Trustees of these state universities and colleges. Ano po yung mga hakbang na kanilang ginagawa para tawagan ng atensyon nitong mga state universities and colleges na ito na nakakaranas, sinabi rin ni Yusek Guevara, na nasa 3 o hanggang 6 na buwan na delays sa pagbibigay nitong mga grants na ito.
Okay. So susubukan kong ipasagot kay Yusek Guevara.
Maraming salamat po sa inyong katanungan. Ang DOST po, pagka nagre-renew ng project ang isang research and development project, may mga requirements po kami na kailangan nilang isubmit tulad po ng technical report, katulad po ng proof na nag-submit na sila sa kanilang COA auditor noong kanilang financial report. Hindi na nga ho namin hinihintay yung audited financial report. Proof lang po na nag-submit na po sila ng financial report. Gayunpaman, kahit ganito po kasimple na yung mga aming requirements, marami po sa ating mga project leaders, minsan hindi nakakatupad po nito. At diyan po nagkakaroon ng problema na hindi po nila mabayaran yung kanilang researchers dahil hindi naman po pwede mag-release ng pera ang DOST sa kanila kung hindi po kumpleto ang mga requirements base po sa grant in aid guidelines. Pero napansin po namin, marami po dun sa mga universities na narilisan na po namin ng pera, medyo mabagal din po ang kanilang administration. Kaya medyo po nade-delay po minsan ang pagbibigay nila ng sweldo sa kanilang mga researchers kahit na nandun na po ang pera sa kanila. Pag nalalaman po namin yan, pinapakausap po namin sa aming project monitor yung po mga project at program leaders para po sabihan sila na, uy, kailangan nyo nang bayaran yung mga researchers ninyo. Yun po ang aming ginagawa, hindi na po galing sa Board of Regents pero diretso na po doon sa project leader ng mga research projects. Yun po.
Congressman, Representative Ilago.
All right, Mr. Chair. Saan pong opisina o bureau maaring ipadala itong mga reports? Saan po pwede dumiretso yung ating mga RAs, mga science workers na may mga hinaing na may kinalaman dito sa mga DOST grants? Saan po pinakamabilis na maipapaabot ang kanilang mga concerns upang mapagtulungan na tugunan, hindi lang ng SUC, pero kasabay ng DOST?
Representative Ilago, pwede po silang magpadala ng sulat do sa executive director nung council na nagmo-monitor nung kanilang project. Tulad po ni Dr. Montoya, Dr. Ebora, Dr. Paringit, saka Dr. Sumagaysay. May email addresses po sa aming website.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ito po kasi ay taon-taon na rin no, na ipaparating sa atin at naiintindihan po natin na talagang mas mahirap ngayon dahil sa pandemya. Ngunit hinihingi din natin na kung may mga pwede rin tayong mga pwedeng gawing mga adjustments dun sa mga requirements o nang hindi naman sinasakripisyo din yung mga mekanismo natin para sa transparency, sa accountability, sa paggamit ng pondo ay mapabilis po natin yung mga pamamaraan para makarating agad doon sa ating mga RA, sa ating mga science workers ang nararapat na pondo na makarating sa kanila. Now, Mr. Chair, can we now go back to the Philippine Science High School System and Pag-asa?
Magandang hapon po.
Yes, I think we already have here at the in the room Executive Director Lilia Habacon of Philippine Science High School System and Administrator Vicente Malano of Pag-asa. So, Representative Ilago, please.
Mr. Chair, tayo po ay nagparating ng ating concern dun sa mga cuts sa kanilang budget para sa 2022. Tinanong po natin kung ano ba yung rason sa decrease na ito at kung ano po ba yung original na proposed budget nila para sa taong 2020.
Maybe we can ask Executive Director Habacon to answer the question first.
Good afternoon po, Madam. The original budget of
Excuse me, can you address your answer to the chair?
Good afternoon po, Sir Chair of this committee. The original budget of the Philippine Science High School, which was proposed, is 3,852,154. This is and under the net, the proposed budget for 2022 is 2,253,568. The decrease is most of the decrease are the locally funded projects and the ICT equipment po.
Mr. Chair, tayo po ay manghihingi ng listahan nitong mga natanggal doon sa mga ninanais sana na pondohan ng PSHS system, lalong-lalo na po doon sa mga locally funded projects sa ICT dahil malaki pa po ang pwedeng magamit natin kung magkakaroon pa ng pondo para dyan, para mapaunlad yung ating current distance education modalities at para matiyak na wala talagang may iwan doon sa pagtitiyak natin ng pagkatuto sa gitna ng pandemya. Before we hear from Pag-asa, Mr. Chair, may we also ask the PSHS if they can apprise us of their plan for the safe and voluntary return of PSHS stakeholders to limited face-to-face classes and on-campus learning. May plano na po ba para dito?
Mr. Chair, for school year 2021-2022, we have started our classes through remote learning. Now, as far as the operation is concerned, depending on the IATF and the health status of the country, we are considering a limited face-to-face by next year, if it will be allowed. So as of now, we are operating under fully remote learning po.
Mr. Chair, are there proactive steps being done to implement or facilitate the building of prevention and mitigation facilities or implement such strategies to prepare for the safe reopening or the phased reopening of our schools. May sinisimulan na po ba na paghahanda ukol dito para naman sa susunod na academic year?
Mr. Chair, we have been preparing our classrooms, our physical facilities for a possible face-to-face classes. So we have prepared our classrooms so that physical distancing can be achieved. We also have installed several preventive measures such as hand washing, the toilets, the comfort rooms, the entrance, and all other preventive measures that are suggested by the Department of Health and the IATF were implemented or prepared by the school.
Mr. Chair, this youth representation is currently preparing for a proposed amendment on Ligtas na Balik Eskwela Preparedness Fund. So we hope po the PSHS system can be included in this. No? So kung meron po kayong mga dagdag pa na mga budgetary requirements na sa tingin niyo po necessary para sa preparation natin para sa phased reopening ng ating mga campuses, bukas po ang aming tanggapan no, para po ito ay masusi na mapag-aralan. Now, Mr. Chair, can we now hear from Pag-asa?
I think your time has already expired. Can we just ask Pag-asa to answer your previous question?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And after that, we will call on another. Executive Director, Administrator Malano, please.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair. Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Hindi ko po nakuha yung tanong kung pwede pong paki-ulit po.
And Representative Ilago, please repeat the question for Administrator Malano of Pag-asa.
Mr. Chair, may we know the reason for the decrease in the budget for 2022 of Pag-asa? We have noted that they will have about negative 24% decrease in their budget.
Yung amin pong request for 2022 is 3.048 billion po. At po yung nandito po sa NEP is 1.385. Ito po yung, ang dahilan po yung wala pong na-approve na budget for project which include infra, may component na infra. So yun po yung dahilan. At mayroon po kaming request for additional personal services na hindi din po na-approve.
Mr. Chair, final remarks na lang po on that note. May we request the Pag-asa to submit to the committee a list of those projects that were disapproved, and this youth representation continues to support the promotion of SMT that will truly uplift the welfare of all our SMT workers, contributing to countless innovation, community empowerment, and national development. We oppose the negative 3% budget decrease on the total DOST budget, and we vow to propose an increase in the DOST budget at the proper time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, we will submit.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Ilago. So we go now to the next to interpellate from the majority, Representative Hector Sanchez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Please go ahead.
Yes, also good afternoon to our Honorable Secretary, to all resource person, and to my esteemed colleagues. My first question, Mr. Chairman, among Commission audit findings is that according to annual audit report 2019, the SEI or Science Education Institute unutilized scholarship funds of approximately 1.7 billion pesos in the prior years were not remitted to the national treasury, thus depriving the government to fund other critical projects. What is now the status of this 1.7 billion, and why was the huge amount unutilized in the first place? That's my question, first question. Mr.
Your
Chairman.
Honor, may I request Director Marino to answer the question in behalf of the Science Education Institute.
Mr. Chair, yung pong 1.7 billion na accumulated amount over the years since 2015 ay yan po ay yung mga nasuspend po natin mga scholars, yung pong hindi nagamit na pondo because nag-defer po at na-terminate po yung kanilang mga scholarship program. So through the years, yan po yung na-accumulate na 1.7 billion. At yan naman po naman ay naibalik na po namin yung pong 700 million na reverted back na po yan. At yung pong 900 at 100 million ay yan po ay for reversion today. At yung pong 100 million naman po ay for processing na po ngayon. So yung DOST SEI po has been authorized expressly by Section 4 of the Republic Act number 7687 to create the Science and Technology Scholarship Fund to ensure the fulfillment of the institute mandate, particularly dun po sa GAA natin, it includes a provision of ensuring that full requirements of the existing scholars are considered to guarantee their continued funding. Hence, we need to maintain the S&T Scholarship Fund. Kaya nga po ay nag-accumulate po yon because of the may mga scholars po tayo na hindi nakapag-comply doon sa scholarship program po natin. So yun po yung dahilan kaya na-accumulate po yung amount na yun.
Mr. Chair, yung mga hindi nakaka-comply, yun may pag-asa pang makakomply. Kaya yung budget para sa kanila hindi muna sinusuli. Kasi hanggang hindi pa nase-settle yung kanilang kaso.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay. Is there a way to apply for realignment and by way of asking approval from the DBM so that you can utilize to other branch of DOST who is in dire need of this of your department, yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Albert.
Okay, kung papayagan po kaming i-realign, we will do realignment, but unfortunately, yan po ay pinasasoli po ng aming commission, yung auditor po namin. And so kailangan po namin talagang dahil wala na po siyang paggagamitan at dahil nagarantihan na naman po ang aming pondo for this year at sa succeeding year. So kailangan na po namin ibalik talaga yung aming yung 1.7 billion po na yon na accumulate through the years. Pero kung papayagan po kami ng COA, we can realign po yon yung 1.7 billion.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have my second question. Can I go ahead, Mr. Chairman? Okay. Catanduanes is the top abaca producing province in the Philippines. And in fact, a House bill was passed declaring Catanduanes as abaca capital of the Philippines. May I know if DOST has or is looking to develop any technology or innovation in relation to ABACA to make it globally competitive and more in demand to contribute more to the country's economy. For example, technology utilizing ABACA fiber as a substitute for glass fiber, as in multiple automatic parts. Interesting to note that now it is also used for production of face masks and PPS. And also, we have this Republic Act 9242 that we have our mandates to use this ABACA fiber for our uniforms, all our government employees. And this is what we call the Philippine Tropical Public Law. My question, Mr. Chairman, is that is DOST taking steps to further exploit the utilization of ABACA, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair, actually, we would request Director Briones of ITDI to come over kasi the question is more on the utilization, and I really shall we say appreciate that question that has been raised, because there are many uses of ABACA that will lead to higher value. Okay, so I think what the Honorable Congressman mentioned are the same areas that we are looking at. For example, our nanotechnology group has been looking into ABACA already, okay, because it can, as mentioned, it can be used as a component, okay, for in the production of several products na industrial ang application. So, oo, ha? Halimbawa po, yung paggawa ng mga boat, okay, po pwede siyang may ABACA, okay, na magiging matibay pa siya at mas mataas ang value ng ABACA. Yun po ang isa sa objective ng aming Materials Development Center na kung saan itong ABACA ay isang major item. Ganon din po sa aming Philippine Textile Research Institute kasi ang ABACA ay source ng high quality textile material. At ito po ay pwedeng magamit in the high fashion industry kung magagawa lang natin ng magandang textile material. At bukod pa po doon ay meron pang mga ibang pag-aaral na ginagawa sa ABACA dahil pati po yung paggawa ng pera ay malaki ang potential ng ABACA. So meron na po kami mga initial na mga piloting projects na ginagawa na katulong namin ang Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Thank you po for that question, Congressman.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Hi, please.
Yes, looking back in our history, way back 1950s, 60s, and 70s, Bicol region is one of the biggest producing ABACA, which I contributed the highest percentage to our economy. That's why I'm just, I will manifest, Mr. Chairman, that the Department of the DOST should take into consideration, especially on the ABACA disease eradication, because the whole province now, I think 95% we are producing for agricultural product as abaca. That's why this was already approved from the House of Representatives, and now I think for approval in the committee on Senate level. Mr. Chairman, I would like to request to our good secretary to focus or maybe give an attention, especially on abaca disease eradication.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and maybe I will request a quick answer from Dr. Ebora of our Council for Agriculture, because they are having projects that are addressing the problem of abaca pests. Dr. Ebora, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Sa DOST card po, nakapokus tayo dun sa management ng abaca banshee top virus. Ito ho yung pangunahing sakit ng abaca, kaya hindi nagkakaproblema yung production. So mayroon pong mga project na pinag-aaralan kung ano yung magandang management system. And at the same time, nagde-develop po tayo ng abaca hybrid para ma-address itong problem. Sa nabanggit po ni Congressman kanina, ang Catanduanes, isa po ito sa mga area na kung saan ini-evaluate natin yung performance kasama ang Catanduanes State University. At yung pong mga initial results ay maganda ang nakikitang resulta. Pati yung produkto po na in-evaluate ng FPRDI at ng PTRI para sa utilization ng fiber ay very positive po yung result. So you can count on DOST na nakapokus po yung effort namin sa abaca. Sa katunayan po, isa po ito sa mga ISP namin, yung Industry Strategic S&T program sa abaca. At ito po ay nakapokus dun sa pag-address ng disease niya, which is abaca banshee top, at saka po yung management, and at the same time yung utilization po ng fiber. So ito po ay continuing program together with different SUCs from the different regions para ma-evaluate po natin yung performance. Aside from that, meron din po tayong isang project na nasa Visayas State University para sa large-scale evaluation. And we are hoping na it will be completed by middle of next year. Dapat ho kasi natapos sana yun ngayon, kaso dahil dito sa COVID problem, yun ang evaluation system ay na-delay. But we are hoping that by middle of next year, it will be completed. And then we will be approving another projects para meron siyang phase 3 to have a complete evaluation of those plants. And at the same time, be able to address the current problems. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Representative Sanchez, your time has expired. Can you wind up already?
Yes, just only a manifestation. Therefore, I would like to manifest to our committee chairman that we will have a full support on the OST and to add more funds so that we can develop this a technology, and also in order to accelerate and contribute economy to our country. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Congressman Hector Sanchez. The next to interpellate from the minority, Representative Shari Ann Tan. Representative Tan, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. To the good secretary, good afternoon, Sec de la Peña. I would like to thank Secretary de la Peña for giving us the eco dryer for our Banig products, around 500,000 and for 2021. And then we also have 1 million for the complementary food processing equipment that is intended for the municipality of Pinabacdao under the Sira Kabataan program, which is the youth organization in our province. And we also have the swatches or the standardization of TICOG dye intended for Basay, Municipality of Basay, which is we already passed the bill for the identifying Basay, Municipality of Basay as the TICOG capital. And SEC, yung ano na lang siguro yung hindi lang nada-download pa sa amin is yung para sa tubig talino worth 500,000. Yun na lang siguro yung hindi pa na nabigay sa amin as to our request for 2021. But then for 2022, meron po kaming naka-pipeline na request which is intended for the Insumix, for the complementary food processing intended for Catbalogan, particularly the municipality of, in the barangay of New Mahayag, which ang mabibigyan po ng complementary food processing na to is yung women's organization namin. And for Tubig Talino, for another Sira Kabataan group. And we would like to know, kasi I heard from other congressmen, they're also asking for the Abaca research or the intensive study for Abaca textile. Yung tanong ko rin ho, do you have any intense or further research on TICOG and bamboo? Kasi dito sa probinsya ng Samar, since medyo parati ho kaming binabagyo, ang isa ho na nagtatrive dito are yung sa bamboo and yung TICOG po na naka-line or meron naman siyang value chain for the banig industry, which is a century-old tradition dito sa amin. So, ang tanong ko po, meron po ba tayong intensive research on TICOG and bamboo na pwede ho namin na ma-adapt at makatulong dito sa sustainability ng bamboo and TICOG industry sa Samar?
Chair,
Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
yun tungkol dun sa mga naunang binanggit ni Congresswoman Tan ay siguro pag-uusapan na lang ninyo at bibigyan naman namin ng instruction yung ating regional director diyan sa Region 8. Tungkol dun sa Abaca at TICOG, kung yung pag-i-improve ng varieties o nung yung the horticulture part ay pasasagot ko kay Dr. Ebora. Pero dun sa TICOG ay gusto ko lang mas maipaalam na nayari na at operational na yung TICOG presser sa Metals Industry Research and Development Center. So pinakamaganda kung magamit na yon yung TICOG presser para gumanda talaga yung pagkaka-press ng TICOG. So Mr. Chair, I will just ask Dr. Ebora to give a quick answer regarding research on TICOG and bamboo. Dr. Ebora, please.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, sa TICOG po, sa ngayon wala kaming ongoing project pa. Pero yan po ay napag-usapan na dati ng Visayas State University. So pwede po naming tingnan yon. At kung sakali pong may proposal na ibibigay sa amin, we are very willing to provide the support as long as it pass the technical evaluation. Doon po sa bamboo, marami pong projects na sinusuportahan ang DOST card tungkol sa production ng bamboo. Meron din po kaming mga ibang projects tungkol naman sa utilization. So kailangan lang po sigurong makipag-ugnayan kami sa inyo para malaman kung ano yung specific area na sa palagay ninyo ay hindi pa namin nako-cover. Pero medyo extensive na po yung pag-aaral na sinusuportahan ng DOST sa bamboo. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. Chair, at least po ngayon medyo mas clear na sa amin kung kanino po kami at saka saan po kami pupunta. Kasi sa ngayon, madami talagang bamboos dito sa amin pero wala siyang value added. So siguro I would like to ask the number of Dr. Ebora para we can coordinate with you, Doc, directly. Yung staff po namin sa probinsya maka-links po sa inyo agad. And we can, because right now we also have additional fundings coming from OPAP for the plantation of additional bamboos. So pag dumami na ho talaga dito, I think it will be another source of income ng mga tao dito sa amin, particularly in support with the LCAP program ng Presidente. So maraming salamat po. Mr. Chair, I would like to ask na lang from the Secretariat kung makahingi ho kami ng contact number ni Dr. Iborra para directly na lang ho yung pag-facilitate namin. Maraming salamat po, Secretary. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Tan. The next to interpellate from the majority, Representative Mark Go. Representative Go, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Nang una po, I would like to thank the Honorable Chair for giving me the opportunity to ask some questions. And of course, magandang hapon po din sa ating mga members of the Department of Science and Technology, lalong-lalo na po sa ating pong Secretary of the Department. Ang una ko pong tanong, I'm sure the Secretary and the other members of the DOST had the information on the results of the International Student Assessment or yung PISA. Ito po yun. I would like to know if what efforts have we done to improve the science and technology as well as even mathematics among students in the high school of our country. Dito pong PISA result had shown that this is the program for international student assessment which was done in 2018. And the result shows that out of 79 countries who participated in this, I call it an exam, showed that the Philippines is number 79 for reading as well as reading. Yes, in terms of science, we are number 78 out of 79, and mathematics out of 79, we are 79. I would like to know if there are efforts on the part of the DOST in addressing this dismal performance of the country as far as the PISA results are concerned, Mr. Chair, Secretary De La Peña.
Chair, may I be allowed to respond? Thank you, Congressman Go. And kami naman po, with or without the PISA assessment, has been working towards the improvement of science and math education, particularly, as you mentioned, at the basic education level. And the biggest effort that we have is really in terms of creating more opportunities for our science and math teachers to get their advanced degrees. So before, we had only, I think, about 4 universities where they can go for our scholarships. But now we have expanded that, and we have created a consortium. Maybe our Director Marino can add to what I'm saying, so that yung accessibility po ng mga teachers dun sa scholarship ay mas malapit, so they don't have to go to, let's say, to Manila to get their advanced degrees under our scholarship. And more recently, we have added a category of scholarships wherein they can actually pursue a part-time scholarship program towards their master's and PhD degrees in science and mathematics. So kahit na Saturday lang ay pwede silang kumuha ng mga courses, ay scholar pa rin sila, partial scholarship. And hindi na kailangan lumayo because we now have, I think, more than 16 universities in the different regions of the country where they can go. The second major initiative that we have is the short-term training for teachers. And this is done through our STAR program, Science and Teacher Academy for the regions. And this is really the offering of courses, usually 3 to 5 days, wherein they focus on specific areas, okay? And in fact, they're even motivated to come out with innovations in terms of teaching math and science. We even have special courses for teachers who are handling especially abled children. For example, how do you teach the blind science and mathematics? Okay. Now, the third item that I would like to mention is that our very own Philippine Science High School, and we have Director Habakon here, is they also have programs wherein the technologies or the modules or the approaches that they have in teaching science and mathematics are now being shared with the DepEd. And the other thing is that we are also using our own scholars, whether they are in Science High School or whether they are our DOST scholars in college, to have their some kind of community extension work so that they can also provide tutoring to our school children at the basic education level, particularly now when they don't have face-to-face classes. So maybe yun muna, Congressman Go.
Thank you po, Mr. Secretary. The other question I have here is you recorded a total of 4,300 patents that have been received and probably recorded in the Department of Science and Technology for 2018, 2019, you have 4,380. Na I would like to ask, ano po ba yung distribution nitong patents na ito? Saan ba applicable itong mga patents na ito? Are they utilized or implemented probably in the different industries in the country? Or ano po ba itong mga ito para makita natin yung possible impact of these patents to our country in terms of improving the economy, business, and other opportunities in the country, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congressman Go. Kami po ay na-realize namin na napakahalaga na yung output ng research and development ay magamit sa ating mga industriya o kaya kahit sa pangkaraniwang pamumuhay, kahit na saang sektor, whether health or industry or agriculture. Kaya po ang ginawa namin ay gumawa kami ng isang programa na kung paano matutulungan yung mga researchers o kahit na yung mga inventor na merong ganitong mga innovations or mga bagong na-develop na produkto. At ang una pong hakbang niyan ay yung pagbibigay ng intellectual property protection. Actually po maraming stage ang pagtulong namin dyan. Ang ultimate hope namin ay mapakinabangan kung hindi man ibig sabihin ng mga negosyante, pwede rin yung mga researchers themselves ay makapagtayo ng enterprise, pero kailangan nila ng mga intellectual property protection, whether it is a patent, utility model, or industrial design, or even copyright. So siguro po, papasagot ko lang kay Undersecretary Guevara, Mr. Chair, yung aspeto ng technology commercialization na kailangan po ang intellectual property protection.
Mr. Chair, yung pong technology transfer, may tatlo pong paraan. Isa po ay commercialization, pangalawa po ay yung tinatawag naming by extension, at pangatlo po ay yung tinatawag nating for public good. For public good po, pinamimigay po talaga yung technology. Kamukha po ng mga ginagawa ng Pag-asa at ng PBOX. Yung pangalawa naman po, yung by extension, yung mga agricultural universities, diretso po tinuturuan nila yung mga magsasaka at mangingisda ng teknolohiya na nagawa nila sa research ng libre pong ibinibigay. Yung pang-una po, yung commercialization, pwede pong yung technology ila-license out ng university sa isang private sector at sila po ang magko-commercialize. O pwede naman din po na yung mismo researcher, magkakatatayo po siya ng startup or spin-off company na sila na po ang magko-commercialize ng produkto. Ang example po natin dyan ay yung Manila Health Tech na spin-off po sa UP Manila na siyang gumawa po ng Gen Amplify COVID-19 test kit.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up. Ang tanong ko po, binanggit po ninyo dito sa presentation ninyo kanina na ito nga, every year, merong mga patents na na-approve. Nandito po yun, 4,300 in 2018. 2019 is about 4,380, almost the same number. And I think baka itong 2020-21, almost the same number. Ang gusto po natin kasi rito, yung application nitong mga patents na ito. Saan po bang mga industriya na gamit itong mga patents na ito o saan gagamitin na makakatulong sa ating bayan? Pwede po sa, halimbawa, sa semiconductor o kaya sa manufacturing ng iba't ibang mga produkto. At ito'y magko-contribute sa increase ng productivity ng ating bansa. At yun nga, of course, ang pinaka-importante dito, pag nagkaroon ng patent, ay pinoprotekta natin yung intellectual property rights ng ating mga kababayan. Meron po ba kayong yung breakdown nito kung saan itong mga patents na ito?
Congressman Go, isasubmit namin. So halimbawa yung aming mga researchers na ginawa sa Institute of Physics o kaya naman dun sa Department of Materials Engineering, yan po ay marami dyan ay para gamitin sa semiconductor industry. So siyempre iba naman po yung na-develop namin, halimbawa dun sa amin Tuklas Lunas program para naman sa health industry. At yung mga fertilizer, yung mga pesticide na na-develop na protektado rin ng intellectual property ay para naman sa agricultural sector. So, isasubmit po namin yung breakdown na inyong hinihiling, Congressman.
Okay, salamat po. Yung siguro, kung meron po kayo yung mga, siguro yung top, let's say yung top 10, top 15, 20 na talagang malaki ang kontribusyon sa ating ekonomiya o sa mga kumpanya dito sa ating bayan. Napaka-importante po 'yan. Gamitin natin nga yung tinatawag nating Pareto analysis na 80-20, yung mga 20% contributing 80% to the economy. I'm sure meron po kayo noon na Secretary de la Peña.
Yes,
Ngayon
Mr.
kung balikan yung tungkol po sa edukasyon, ilang pong porsyento ang ina-allocate ninyo sa edukasyon for science, technology, and isa pang napaka-importante po rito, yung innovation na nabanggit po ninyo. Dito sa budget po ng 2021, meron kayong budget na 26.33 billion. At ngayon pong taon na ito, ito nga ang inapprove ng DBM na almost the same ang budget. Ilan pong porsyento rito ang naka-allocate sa edukasyon, sa mga edukasyon para sa mga estudyante at sa mga guro? Ilan pong porsyento dyan?
Pong sa scholarships namin, which include already the scholarships even for teachers, ay meron kaming nakasama ngayon for 2022 na 7.2 billion, 7.24 billion na kung ihahambing po natin doon sa total namin na 24.33 billion ay mahigit po siguro itong mga 35%.
35%. Opo, napakalaki po niyan. Ito po bang mga scholars natin na nag-graduate halimbawa sa mga paaralan na ito pong Philippine Science High School at yung mga scholars natin sa mga teachers, tayo po ba may tracking mechanism dito na malaman natin kung saan sila ngayon at ano ang kanilang ginagawa at anong pwede lang makontribute sa ating bansa? Ito po mga scholars natin.
Mr. Chair, Kami po on a periodic basis ay gumagawa na, nagre-release kami ng publication kung nasaan yung mga na-trace nating mga scholars. Pero ngayon ay napapatulong na rin kami sa mga pamantasan na kung saan sila nag-aral para din ma-track down sila. Siguro po magandang halimbawa, Mr. Chair, dito po sa ating harapan dito, ito po ang mga scholars na pinaaral ng DOST. Si Yusek Guevara, si Director Sahagun, sino pa ba? Si Dr. Arcilia, Director ng Philippine Nuclear Research Institute, si Dr. Briones, Director ng ITDI. Malaki na po pakinabang natin sa kanila. So, at ganun din po sa industriya. Salamat po.
Maraming po salamat, Mr. Chair. Yung pong budget ng PhilBox ay itong pag-asa. Ang budget po ngayong 2021 is 1.8 billion. Pero ito pong NEP ninyong na 2022 ay bumaba ng 435 million. Ako po ay hanga-hanga sa ginagawa po ng pag-asa ngayon. Napakaganda ng mga forecast na ginagawa. Bakit po kaya binaba itong budget ng pag-asa? At ano po ang dahilan nito? Makaka-apekto po ba sa kasalukuyang ginagawa ng pag-asa itong pagbaba ng budget from 1.8 billion to 1.3 or a reduction of 435 million pesos?
Chair, may mga infrastructure po.
That will be the last question because the time has expired for Representative Gom.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Bagamat nandito po ang administrator ng pag-asa, in short po ay meron po tayong tinatawag na fiscal space sa DBM. So pinagkakasya. Kaya yung pong lahat na halos ng aming proposal sa infrastructure ay hindi na-aproban. Kasama po dyan yung mga infrastructure ng pag-asa na naghahangad na madagdagan pa yung ating mga infrastructure lalo na doon sa mga malalayo pang mga lugar na hindi pa na nagkakaroon na yan. So, siyempre po, yan ay makaka-delay din doon sa ating modernization, implementation. But in terms of the accuracy of our forecast, ay ginagarantiyan naman po ng pag-asa na ito ay mapapanatili natin at mai-improve pa sa kasalukuyang level.
Maraming po salamat. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary, at sa sampul po ng kasapi sa Department of Science and Technology. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Go. So we go to the last to interpellate Deputy Speaker Sabiliano. Deputy Speaker Sabiliano, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Secretary and the DOST family. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Una-una po, yung nagpapasalamat ako sa mga programs ng DOST, especially sa bamboo at saka sa weaving industry. So, Mr. Secretary, may mga nabigay na po kayo sa amin. Maraming salamat po at marami pa kaming hinihintay. Mr. Secretary, ang isang nakikita ko na parang kulang tayo, yung Forest Products Innovation and Training Center. Meron ba tayo nito?
Mr. Chair, meron po kaming pre-propose na Forest Products Innovation Center para
Napunduhan ba? Kasama ba dito sa budget?
Nasa tier 2 po sa
Kaya nga,
kasama sa NEP po.
Yun nga sana, Mr. Chair, sana bigyan natin ng priority dito kasi kailangan po natin itong Forest Products Innovation and Training Center kasi kailangan natin ma-maximize yung mga resources natin, kailangan natin may upgrade yung mga products natin. That includes the promotion of the green technology na yun na yung uso sa ibang bansa. So kailangan po sana ay reconsider ng Committee on Appropriations yung pagbigay po ng pondo dito. Mr. Chair.
Station is noted. Deputy Speaker.
Yeah. Another thing, Mr. Chairman, yung ano natin, yung program natin naman sa ano sa yung development ng bangus industry, crab industry, tsaka yung salt industry natin. I'm saying this because tayo, archipelago tayo, and we should take advantage. Kasi at saka yung bangus natin, yung fisheries, ang dali hong gawin yan eh. In 3 months time may mangyayari na. Compared to other products, it will take some time. Like kunyari, sinasabi nyo kanina, abaka, it will take some time. Sugarcane will take some time. But if we look into inner water resources, ang dami po niyang mas madaling pong gawin. So, and since we're archipelago, ito sana yung isang tignan natin kasi mas mabilis yung production dito.
Doon po sa salt ay talagang pinag-uukulan namin ng pansin yan at yung aming Industrial Technology Development Institute ay tumutulong sa aming mga regional offices para ma-identify yung mga lugar na pwede na namin introduce yung mga innovation sa salt industry. So malaman lamang po namin kung alin yung mga lugar na malaki ang potential for producing salt. Iba-iba pong klase ng production yan. Mayroon talagang pinapatuyo lamang sa araw, yung iba naman ay ina-applyan ng heat at depende sa source. Pangalawa po yung tungkol sa bangus, I completely agree with you, Your Honor, Congressman Sabeliano, tungkol sa kailangan natin talagang magkaroon ng very intensive program para sa industry. At dito po ay makakapag-share ng kanyang mga programa si Dr. Ebora. Very quickly lang po, Dr. Ebora, can you just mention, very briefly na lang po.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sa ngayon po ay kasama po sa Industry Strategic Plan ng PICARD ang bangus. At mayroon din po tayong iba't ibang project tungkol dun sa hatchery at saka yung pong mga iba pang innovation, kagaya ng mga aquaculture feeds na pwede sa bangus at maging sa tilapia din.
So,
ngayon ay kasama po ito sa mga investment namin sa DOST PICARD at nire-review po ngayon namin yung ISP namin sa bangus para makita pa yung ibang intervention na kailangan gawin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the information of the Secretary, sa Ilocos po, kami isa sa pinakamaraming production ng mga bangus fries dati. But now, yung mga tao ayaw na nilang makumuha because we'd rather import from Gondol, Indonesia, than produce our own bangus. Kasi mas mura na ho di hamak doon. And we are importing billions of bangus fry. So ito yung nagiging challenge sa akin. If you remember, Mr. Secretary, since 2017, I was advocating for salt. Buti na lang gumagalaw na rin. And sana ito naman, bangus and crabs. Because crabs, millions po yung yung itlog niyan. So we can easily reproduce, di ba? Yung production natin mo. So ito sana yung mga concentration natin ngayon, especially now, medyo taghirap, ipit ang tao. So maghanap tayo ng mga programa na pagkukunan natin na mas mabilis. Instead, hindi naman inaano ko yung agriculture, pero in the fisheries, ito po yung mas madali. Kasi una-una, hindi mo binabayaran yung yung tubig na paggagawa mo nito eh. And everybody can do it.
Yun po talaga naming priority yung bangus ngayon.
So, Mr. Secretary, can your director visit our province para makita po niya yung mga resources namin doon? Because we've been producing bangus before, yung mga bangus fry, madami po sa amin, binibili ng taga Pangasinan at Bulacan. Pero ngayon, yung mga taga Pangasinan at Bulacan, they'd rather import from Gondol, Indonesia. Pero if we can do the Gondol, Indonesia system, may babalik ko natin, malaki yung kikitain ng mga natin, yung mga even yung mga backyard racers natin ng bangus, malaki yung kikitain nila.
Sabi ko priority namin yan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Another thing, Mr. Secretary, yung natin, yung in Ilocos kasi matagal na po yung niyo doon, yung office niyo, pero wala po kayong wala pa kayong center doon. So, we're requesting for a center sana, Mr. Secretary, yung DOST Provincial Science and Technology, where we will put up the metrology, water testing lab, and the training center.
Tulungan nyo kami na magkaroon na kami ng budget para doon.
Kaya nga, Mr. Secretary, nakikita ko na parang binabawasan pa yung litid ng budget nyo. So, Mr. Chairman, pakitulungan naman natin ang DOST kasi dami ho nilang pangangailangan and we need to support them.
Okay, noted.
And not only that, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the research and development of other countries, huling-huli po tayo. In every aspect, binibigyan ho talaga. The countries invest in the science and technology, research and development. So ito yung isang pagkukulang natin na sana bigyan pansin ng gobyerno natin, Mr. Chair. Noted.
Okay, other question?
Mr. Chair, isa pa. Mr. Secretary, ano na po nangyari sa natin sa TELA program?
Sorry po, hindi ko po narinig, Mr. Chair.
Yung sa TELA program po, kumusta na po?
Yung tela. Tuloy-tuloy naman po yun. In fact, ang Philippine Textile Research Institute, ang isa sa mga ahensya namin na biglang lumaki ang research and development nila, starting from the fiber, pati yung tinatawag nilang non-woven fabrics na hindi kailangan i-weave pero makakagawa ka ng mga magandang fabrics at saka yung pong utilization. Kaya maganda ngayon ang aming partnership with the industry sector para sa utilization itong mga improved quality textiles and products coming from our own indigenous materials.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And lastly, Mr. Chair, sundan ko lang yung sinabi kanina ni Congressman Mark Goy regarding yung science natin na medyo mababa yung performance ng mga estudyante. Nag-meeting na po ba kayo ng DepEd? Kasi sa tingin ko, DepEd ang basic yung, di ba? Basic education sa DepEd. Nag-meeting na po ba kayo niyan? How to improve?
Kung formal meeting tungkol sa PISA, wala akong natatanda meeting, pero yung po kasing aming tinatawag na programs para sa mga teachers ay parating kasama namin ang Secretary of DepEd pagka kami nag-o-opening, nagko-closing ng mga programs na yon. At the same time, may pagkakataon din kaming mag-usap dahil nung kanya namang representative sa aming Board of Trustees ng Philippine Science High School na kung saan pag-uusapan namin yan. Pero kung yung pong sasabihin ay yung formal meeting between DOST and DepEd regarding PISA, wala po akong natatandaan.
Kaya ako pa, Mr. Chair, pwede bang gawin natin yung para at least matrace natin kung saan talagang problema? Kasi siyempre, DepEd ang umpisa niyan, di ba? Kasi basic education sila, then you get your scholars, di ba? So kailangan po na mag-usap din ng DepEd tsaka DOST kung paano natin ma-improve yung performance natin. Suggestion, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Secretary, and to the DOST family. Last note, Sec, magaling ho yung mga USEC mo at mga directors mo na tumutulong sa amin sa bamboo industry. So, keep up the good work ko. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Sabiliano. Now we go to the second round. We have Representative Sara Ilago. Representative Ilago, you have 2 minutes.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Nais ko lang pong humingi ng update ng pinakahuling ulat mula sa DOST tungkol sa naging report ng Korean media tungkol sa distributed denial of service attacks sa alternative media outlets na Bulatlat, Alter Media, gayon din po sa Human Rights Group na Karapatan. Sang-ayon po kasi sa kanilang report ay may link daw po ito sa Department of Science and Technology at sa military. isang concern po ito na hinapag din natin kanina sa harap ng AFP. Maaari po ba nating malaman mula sa DOST kung ano na po ang status ng investigation tungkol dito? May we also know na there are already names of personal agency or institution behind the IP address and email addresses po in the said report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I will recommend to respond.
Mr. Chair, tungkol po dun sa mga nilathala po ng bulatlat, tungkol dyan sa mga IP addresses, nais po namin ipabatid sa inyo na yung IP addresses, ang trabaho po ng DOST, Advanced Science Technology Institute, ay mag-assign po ng mga IP addresses. Yung pong pag-iimbestiga dun sa nangyari po, ay mandato po ng Department of Information and Communications Technology. Kaya po, nung nakita po namin na nangyari, pinadala na po namin yung aming report sa DICT. Sila po ang nagsasagawa ng investigasyon. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, nalaman na ba ng DOST kung saang office, ahensya o institusyon naka-assign itong sinasabing IP address ng Korean Media? At kailan po natin inaasahan na matatapos ang investigasyon? O kung natapos na po ba ito, may kopya na ba ang DOST?
Salamat po, Mr. Chair. Binigay po namin ang data sa DICT kung sino po yung assigned at alam po naman nila po yon. At sa kasalukuyan, hinihintay po namin matapos nila ang kanilang investigasyon. Wala pa po silang pinapadala sa amin. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, 3 buwan na po yung nakalipas mula itong nakaka-alarmang report na ito. No, kaya ang pareho pong concern ay dadalhin din natin sa harap ng DICT at inaasahan po natin yung pinakamabilis na resolusyon hinggil sa usapin na ito upang matiyak po natin na wala pong pondong nagagamit sa ganitong tipo ng mga reported na mga DDoS attacks sa lalong-lalo na sa ating mga sites ng balita at ng karapatang pagtao. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat din po sa DOST sa binigay nilang update.
Thank you, Representative Ilago. That was the last to interpellate. So, considering...
Chairman,
Yes,
considering that there are no more members who will be interpellating, I move to terminate the budget briefing of the Department of Science and Technology.
Second the
Mr. Chairman.
motion, Mr. Chair.
Chair, there's the motion duly seconded. So the motion to terminate the budget briefing on the proposed budget with the Department of Science Technology is approved. Budget presentation terminated.